Good evening, everybody. I had the most unexpected experience this last weekend. I went up to the monastery, Sogan and I did, for a teachers' meeting. And that's a place where I've known people for many, 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 many years. And before this Sangha, it was my Sangha. And before that Sangha, I had two other major Sanghas, beginning with the one in Hawaii with Aitken Roshi, and then the one in Seattle with Genki and Glenn Webb, which was my first kind of formal Sangha experience for any extended period of time. So we had a guest speaker. They're very good friends of Hogan Bays, who was one of the abbots at Great Vow. And I always knew, he would mention them periodically, and I knew them from Seattle. But when they walked in and they started giving their talk, I realized, oh, they were part of the Seattle Sangha that I practiced with for a long time, and they told a very remarkable story about what followed on to, and I've mentioned before that I was involved in the Stop Trident campaign, when the Trident subs were coming in with nuclear missiles, and we got in front of them to try to stop them from entering the waterway, get to the station. So they told the story of what happened after that, to that. And so it was a very unexpected continuation of a story, and it just reminds me of how everything that we do continues to reverberate. All of the relationships continue to go on in some way that we may have long forgotten about. The topic that we were called together to explore as teachers in the lineage that we're in was renunciation. So for 2 full days, we talked a great deal about the role of renunciation in the process of waking up to who we are. And I chose to talk about the role of renunciation in non-residential, they call it lay. It's lay in relation to monastic training. And we call it householder, or we call it non-residential. We just call it Zen, what we do. We are and looking at what are the differences in the training, in the experience of developing and opening our Dharma eye. What are the differences in the approaches if you are residential at a monastery and take on robes and all of that? What's the process that unfolds as opposed to ours? And for the longest time, until recently, the lay Sangha have been there just to support the monastic Sangha. I mean, historically, that's what they did. They provided food and everything else that monks needed. Mostly men, but there have always been women, as we know from our own lineage. And it was really interesting as I prepared, because I've had this summer to be reflecting on this whole life of practice that we do. And without coming regularly to be accompanied in that, but just to kind of do hermit practice, it was kind of perfect to prepare for looking into what I was going to talk about at that talk, and come to appreciate that it's the same process. In the monastery, you could say that the conditions are ideal, because everybody is there to wake up. Everybody has the same basic vow and intention. As though we don't. But we do. And the people in this room, I mean, we all maintain the monastery. This monastery in the midst of samsara. And the practice in non-monastic centers in many ways is much more difficult because we are drawn and quartered. I mean, drawn in so many different directions. Most people work, have families, have all kinds of other responsibilities. Hopefully families are supportive, not always. And then your work situation is riddled with conflict, usually. And so much of it revolving around the political I, the conventional I that is based in me separate from you. You know, this sense of not having enough, never having enough, never measuring up, always having to keep growing. I mean, there's always this sense that there's so much missing that we have to scramble to try to attain. Here, part of the aspect of refuge is, well, first I'll say there's nothing to attain. And then I'll say the most important thing to attain is found here. But it's not, we don't attain something that we don't already have. You know, so if we look at what is renounced in any practice, most fundamentally it's the self-view. First of all, that I am the center of the universe. I am. Aren't you? That's part of the true situation. From a human consciousness standpoint, we're all the center of the universe. There are 8 billion human centers of the universe. No wonder we're having so much trouble when we regard the situation from the standpoint of the individual as opposed to the whole. But when we look at the way the true kind of ecological truth of life, we are all contributing and benefiting. We're contributing to life and benefiting from the collective life. Everything that we do feeds our state of mind. Our state of mind feeds everybody else's. It's one of the things living in a sangha where our vow is to come into our true way of being with clear seeing, warm-heartedness, and an understanding of how interdependent all of life is. And we learn, it really changes our deportment when we realize that your well-being and my well-being are one and the same. I cannot exclude you from my heart and still have a sense of well-being. So that the idea of what do we renounce, it's the renunciation in the same way is the same as continuous practice is renunciation. We're continuously turning the mind and the heart to this present moment. Continuous. We forget, come back, forget, come back, forget, come back. It's part of the basic rhythm of life. Forget, come back. And we all do that together, and we remind each other that that's what is the most important thing, is to become truly who we most fundamentally are. rather than foist our own narrative, our own delusive conclusions about what the world is and who you are and who I am, and have to support some view. We all together in Sangha understand more and less at various times that we our suffering is based in a view that is limited, very limited. And as soon as we remember and come back, there is no sense of suffering, dissatisfaction, torment, longing, self-criticism, all of the ways that the flavors of the day of suffering that we are prone to, that we are habituated to. So one of the things that people at the monastery are actively reminded of by everything they do together is to come back to this moment and to put aside self-concerns for the well-being of all. We can offer each other a lot of support, and we do. We've really been developing that as a Sangha very actively in a lot of different ways in recent years. Initially, not. Initially, our way of doing a community Zen center was kind of based on the old view of the non-monastic center. We come together, we sit together, we don't talk, and then we leave. Well, leads to. The phrase is that leads to wasted dharma, because unless we are in full relationship and we really discover the full impact of all of the ways that we are in relation to each other. We have a conflict-ridden Zen center or one that kind of fades out. One of the things that was always a concern for me that I wrestled with, I'm no longer wrestling with this. This is clarified. This is really clarified for me with the help of all of you. Was that Chosen years ago, I think she has changed her view, but Chosen Bays, who was my transmitting teacher, who gave me transmission, that the problem with non-monastic sanghas is they fade out. They don't last. And so that made me so pissed off that I kind of made a reactive vow. Ours is going to last. Well, we'll see. We're doing our best. And the thing that it rests on is a very, very strong sangha with a core of long-term committed practitioners. And our life in the Dharma varies. So, when I was young, I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and when I was younger, it was always the center. From the first time I sat down, it was the center of my life. But I didn't always formally practice, and I went for long periods of time without showing up at the whatever group it was that I was sitting with. And I think that marks early on for some people, and it's not a problem, it's just the way it goes. And then slowly you come back. I came back because there was nothing that addressed life the way this practice addresses it. And the longer you live, the more it's the same old personal story that keeps reenacting itself. So having a practice that continues to bring a very fresh eye to the same old is a treasure. And it's one of the reasons we say the three treasures, the Dharma, the teachings, the Buddha, the one who showed us the way, one of many. There are many Buddhas. And then the Sangha, without which there would be neither Buddha nor Dharma. It would not have lasted nearly 3,000 years. Think of it. It's been going on. Some of you have already shown up to write on the lineage chart. We will resume that this fall. The theme for the fall Ango, the intensive practice theme, is the lineage. So we'll be picking that back up so you have a chance to write in an ancestor or two on that chart, which will hang right over there. And there are 150. I just got word that there are a couple of other groups that have been working on looking into some of the other lineages, because ours follows a certain line, but there have been many lineages, and they're integrating it into, and they say they're coming up with 300 people who carry the Dharma on our behalf. There are millions of people who have brought the Dharma to us, and that they're kind of captured in the names of people who were either writing or they were famous teachers of the various times and places. So we'll be exploring some of them because it's so wonderful to look beyond the mythic mind that we all carry around in relation to Dharma, which is what inspires us, and recognize that these people who are kind of mythic, what's the word, avatar? We're just people dealing with the same circumstances and variety of circumstances, except that they weren't awash in media noise, which we are. It's one of the, we might even say that the temptation is to add media, ever-presence of media, to the hindrances. Because it's one thing that's really a big problem for everybody, for all of us, and especially the younger people coming along. For a couple of reasons. One, because screen technologies stimulate the brainstem and the amygdala, which are the basic fight or flight centers, we are wired to become hooked. That's the way we are designed, to become hooked. And then the information is so filled with imagery of all sorts. Very distracting, very hard to calm down, very hard to even think clearly, let alone sit still, let alone tolerate regularly stopping and letting all of that go, and learning how to just be very present. We have this face-to-face tradition. Many, many, many people don't have the access to a face-to-face Sangha. Hi there. Except you said time does come, and has for a long time. Knows face-to-face. Has a face-to-face Sangha where he is too. So there is something about the influence of warm body to warm body, eye to eye, being in the presence of, that allows the kind of the energetic transmission to flower. Because it's not the conceptual. I mean, that has a role, definitely, but the heart of being awake and grounded and open and in full relation, direct, does not have to do with the words about it. So if you only get access through media to Dharma teachings, that's a wonderful thing. There are a lot of wonderful teachers who are adapting mightily to that form. But it doesn't provide the creature company that we need as animals. We need each other. If we say, what is the quality of awakened mind? What is the quality or what's the juice that flows through us when we're awake? It's joy, it's love, and that's essential to have access to, especially in Zen practice. Beyond the first flush of enthusiasm, it can be very difficult, because we all face all of the parts of ourselves that have never had company and have never had a sympathetic or a wise eye to help us with, which is really how we work with Dharma. We bring a wise eye to all of our ghosts and our demons. You look at the leadership of this country, they've never had access to that kind of support and mirroring. So now I'll begin my talk. Just kidding. What else? What was I going to talk about? Well, I don't know. I have so much notes here. But the thing that I really want to begin to emphasize here this fall, as we kind of take up a theme, we try to take up a theme for a period of time, and it is renunciation in continuous practice as it is expressed through our deportment, how we behave here, how we carry ourselves in the Zen Center. We've worked on that for a long time. We've worked to become very welcoming. People who are brand new coming here, hopefully, are received immediately and welcomed, or asked their name, or shown where they can sit, and the kind of the basic ways to get started. So that's part of it. Part of deportment is how we keep the altars, how we enter the Zendo, how we conduct ourselves in meetings, and how we develop program. So every aspect, how we present meals in oryoki practice, how we keep the garden and the grounds, how people show up for their jobs. And so far, we have a sterling set of practitioners here who really seem to get that when you say you're going to do something, you do it with your whole heart, you do it well. It really makes a difference in saying, yes, we really care about the environment that we are maintaining for our practice. A practice which is caring, deportment internally. How do we hold ourselves in Zazen. It's the ongoing inquiry is what is Zazen? How do we do it? We know when we have hit the mark because there's no problem. We're just right here. One of the things we talked quite a bit about at this meeting was how essential it is to get interested in our breath. To be able to be very present to this very simple, immediate, and continual practice, which is right in the body. It's the animating, it's part of the animation of the body. There's not a particular breath that we have to keep. It's whatever the breath is at the time. And it changes, as you know, if you've done any long sitting, you know. When you first sit down, the breath is one way, and then if you've been sitting for an hour, it's very different. Sometimes it almost disappears. And the attitude toward the breath can go from, if you're really caught up in your inner critic, if you're sitting there really ragging on yourself about something, and then you shift the attention to the breath, it hurts. In my body anyway. There's a hurt quality in there. I don't even mean emotionally, I mean even fibrously. It's uncomfortable. But when just sitting in company with everything that is in company with us, there is almost a sweetness, plumpness, and ease. I don't know. You have to look at how you experience that. But the breath is infinite, really. We use the breath in Zazen, but another time, a wonderful time to practice with the breath is any time, but also in the woods or in the field, breathing with the trees, with the grasses, with the sky. So, to really, one of the talks that was given was on pleasure, which we don't talk a lot about in Zen. But there's a lot of teaching on pleasure in the Pali Canon. And it's divided into, I forget all of the terminology that's used there, but pleasure that comes from a clear heart, mind. Wholesome pleasure that is in full relation to the life body of the universe. And then there's pleasure that is hooked to the senses, is based in division and accomplishment and greed and small self reinforcement, which becomes the root of suffering. So we just talked a lot about the pleasures of sitting, and it's one thing that happens over the course, especially of a sesshin. If you haven't tasted the pleasure of practice, you can, after the hell of the first day or two, when you're trying to calm down, it can be very challenging. But at a certain point, when you really deeply, deeply relax, when you are relaxed, you don't do it. It does itself. It is self-relaxing. And then just the act of this breath is deeply pleasurable. Any sight is beautiful. Any sound is sweet. Oryoki meals, delicious. And the feeling, the general feeling of relief. I am capable of letting everything go and being whole, with nothing missing. And that is deeply pleasurable. So to tie that back with renunciation, that's the point. That's what it's intended initially, originally. That renunciation allows us to get to that fundamental spaciousness. When we have really when we're willing and we've made an agreement with ourselves to let go of all of the things that we always thought were necessary. And we realize that nothing is necessary, just this breath. Even when outer conditions are very challenging. So that's sort of the meaning of refuge too, is that even when things are really difficult, we can pause and return to this treasure. So it's wonderful to be back with the Sangha. You didn't know it, but I felt each of you when I was there variously. We carry each other around in our pockets. Huh? Well, that's all for now.
More great Bodhisattvas can be found on page 5 of the chant book.